It's a lovely January morning, bit chilly. The dog is living his best life running around in the woods. For those of you who like to be anchored, we are January 2026. Lovely start to the year generally. I was thinking this week in my little tugboat world of Send, a theme came up that is important to all families living with disability, and particularly disabled children, and that's the cost of asking for help that we professionals tend not to think about, and families really struggle with. And this came up for several of the families I help with this week, so I thought it might be interesting to address it. We humans are complicated little creatures full of contradiction. We are social animals, and yet we prize independence and autonomy. We really don't like vulnerability, and around vulnerability there is so much shame that asking for help becomes extraordinarily difficult. I suppose because we are admitting that we can't do something. And in the world of special educational needs and disability, we are having to admit that we're not good enough as parents. That's how it feels, that we can't do what we should be able to do. And so asking for help is very hard. On another point, related, Article 8 of the Human Rights Convention guarantees the right to privacy and a family life. And that privacy is the ability to live as you like, the ability to have the values that you have inside your home, and not to be interrupted, not to be intruded on. Government isn't allowed to just willy-nilly walk into your home. There are some exceptions, but they are around breaking the law largely. And so that's our context. Really important. This is how we are brought up. This is actually how we raise our children, even the disabled children. A lot of preparation for adulthood is around independence, autonomy. And so I work with families, and I continue to be a family where we can't do things all on our own. We need help. We need extra help because of disability. And so we have to admit to ourselves that we can't do it. And then we have to seek help. Then we have to navigate those systems, which is far from straightforward. The bit that I want to talk about is that bit where we have to open our homes to professionals. We have to open ourselves to judgment. And if we don't, the very people who are there to help us can't, because they don't know what the problem is. It's not that they don't want to. That can happen, and accessing help can in itself be difficult. But today, what we're talking about is making sure that the people who are there to help, the services that exist to help people like me, can't step in unless they know what is needed, that they know that there's a real problem. They know that their problem meets the criteria of their various, processes. And so we have to open the door, and we have to say, I can't do this. So in my case, years and years ago, I needed help. I needed help overnight because due to my child's disability and all of the other contexts, I wasn't sleeping well. I was sleeping, but I was up at least 5 or 6 times every single night. And it wasn't possible. I'm just a human. And we couldn't do it on our own. We didn't have family. There were all of these circumstances that without the system and the professionals knowing about, they couldn't help. There wasn't a need for help from where they stood. So we have to ask for help. And that means overcoming the shame of not being able to. It means opening ourselves up to judgment. All too often, in my world, in Tugboat's world, the first thing that will be offered is a parenting course. And while there are some very, very good courses out there that really help, the implication right from the outset is you as a parent are not good enough. You don't have the skills, you don't have the knowledge, you are not good enough. It's hard to open yourself up to that. If you have a child who suffers from challenging behavior, it's even worse. Because all of a sudden, you are responsible for a little person's behavior, which is totally unacceptable. And again, you open yourself up to blame. So how do you make that choice? How and when do you make the choice to open your door, not only to help, but to judgment, to blame, to I know better? Often without very much in the way of actual practical help and support. It's up to the individual, isn't it? So my role with Tugboat is to help people see what the options are, to work with them based on experience of what does this look like? What's likely to happen if you make that call? What's likely to happen if you don't make that call? Speaking to a school and seeing the faces of these lovely teachers open up in renewed understanding because they learnt something about the family's circumstances that changed their perspective entirely. That happened to me twice this week. It's important, but for a family and for a person, it's a very, very, very high cost that shouldn't be underestimated and that should be looked after very gently, I think. So we will pause there. Cost of asking for help. The cost of getting help is the next bit. But what is the cost to a human person of asking for help in today's world, in today's society, and in the context of disability? I wonder what your experiences have been. There will be positives as well as negatives. I think there are positives and negatives in every person's experience. I've certainly had both. Overall, with complicated situations, the choice often disappears. It becomes necessary. So we have to seek help wherever it is available, even if it's not great and even if it costs us very heavily to do so. I think this is one really for the professionals to remember when you are meeting that family for the first time, or for the second time, or for the 100th time. Remember the cost to them of having to ask you for help.